Hello nerds and nerdettes, and welcome back to the channel where once again we have a new video for you guys. Today's video is going to be the long-awaited, the much-wanted haul for the month of October 2024, finally coming out. I do apologize that it's a little bit late. A hurricane did hit my area and I've been working like crazy. I finally have a little bit of a break to record this video for you guys, so I'm trying to get out some content. But enough dilly-dally, let's get into the haul. But first, a quick word from our sponsors, aka me. If you do want to pick up any of these books and you'd like to use the channel sponsor to help support the channel, you can use organicpricebooks.com and use the code STAYNERDY for $2 off your order, or when ordering 4 or more books, Stay Nerdy, ship it together to save yourself 5% on that order. It saves you some money, but like I said, it does help support the channel. So thank you to each and every one of you guys that do decide to use that code. But let's go ahead and finally get into the haul. For anyone that's new here, I typically start with manga, then work my way into indies, image, smaller publishers, and then I usually round off the list with DC and Marvel. The timestamps will be down below if you want to jump around through the video, but let's go ahead and get started. First up in the list, we do have a little bit of a shout out, and that is to TKO Studios, who have been showing your boy and the channel some love and were more than happy to send me some books. So thank you so much, TKO Studios. The books that they did send me is Scales and Scoundrels, which I've heard nothing but good things, specifically from a lot of the members of our community, saying that there's a lot of social dialogue throughout this. Obviously fantasy elements, which you'd come to expect from a story called Scales and Scoundrels that has a dragon on it. But really excited to finally check out this title. Never got around to picking it up, but here I am with it in my possession, and I'm so happy to finally get to read it. Another book that they sent me, which I am so pumped that I finally got to read, is Sarah by Garth Ennis and Steve Epting. Heard nothing but good things on this specific title. Garth Ennis is very well known from his run on Punisher, Hitman, that omnibus that just recently came out from DC. Very well known creator, and Steve Epting is the illustrator from the Ed Brubaker Captain America run. So together, they tell a story that covers a female battalion of snipers that are going up against the Nazi regime and trying to defend Mother Russia. There is elements that go into the brutality of war. There's even some elements that go into the manipulation that one's government and country can have on the soldiers and the people on the front line. It's really, really good story. Great ending. Highly recommend it. And then they did recommend one specifically to me based off my taste from my YouTube videos, and that is Lonesome Days and Savage Nights. From what I hear, this is a crime noir story, a hard-boiled like storyline that does feature werewolves and other supernatural elements. Seems very much in the vein of Moonshine, which is a story that I am currently reading. So I've been enjoying that, so I feel like I'm probably going to enjoy this also, but they sent me both volumes 1 and 2, and I think that's all of the volumes that are currently out. So thank you again, TKO Studios, for sending some books my way, and I am so pumped to check these out, read them, and of course share with you guys my thoughts on these specific titles. But let's go ahead and jump into everything that I picked up during this month. First up for manga, we have Goodnight Poon Poon Volume 2 by Inio Asano. He is a mangaka that I am a huge fan of. Really, really enjoy all of his work. Incredible art, a very cartoony yet realistic art. I highly recommend checking out anything he wrote when it comes to manga. But this is going to be a story that follows a young boy's life as he slowly begins to grow up, and his experiences in life, his trauma throughout life. I've heard that it is very depressing. You do not want to read this story in the wrong headspace. So I am very, very excited to get this in, check it out. From what I've heard, very similar to that of Tokyo Revengers. It has some familiar elements that I may be familiar with in my own personal life. So I always like some books that can play with elements that I'm somewhat familiar with. So really excited to get this in. I'm kind of picking it up as I come across it in the wild. It's not something I'm hunting down or looking for by any means, but it is still a story that I want to get in and eventually, of course, read and share my thoughts with you guys. So really, really excited to get it in. These do have connecting spines, which is also another brownie point for this specific title. And like I said before, the art is just completely beautiful, and the covers themselves make you really wonder what exactly this story is about. And for those of you that are wondering why there is such a oddly drawn bird on the front, that is our main character. That is how he's illustrated through the entire story, while the rest of the world is illustrated normally, or as normal as a mangaka could make them look. So really cool concepts here, really exciting. And I can't wait to keep picking it up and eventually connect that entire beautiful spine and read the entire story. But that wraps up Goodnight Poon Poon. Let's jump up to the next manga volume, which is also my last of the month. And that volume is the latest deluxe edition for Vinland Saga. This is a beautiful format and a beautiful title to have in this format. This is my second favorite manga that I've ever experienced. I don't think it will ever drop from the second spot or move up from the second spot, because the title that is in front of Vinland Saga is Berserk, and that's kind of a hard one to beat for me. But still, these books are so beautiful. Highly recommend Vinland Saga as a title. I think I did mention in one of my previous haul videos that they are alternating colors of these deluxe editions every 2 volumes. So volume 1 and 2 were like a reddish color. Volumes 3 and 4 are this like dull black color. And then from what I've heard through rumors, I haven't seen anything official, that 5 and 6 are going to be like a orangish kind of color. Pretty exciting, very interesting, kind of odd. I don't know if I'm a fan of it yet, but Vinland Saga in oversized format, hardcover format, I'm going to pick it up. I love Vinland Saga. I think everyone should read it. I think everyone should watch the anime. So many lessons can be learned in this specific book. Lessons that have to do with humbleness, lessons that have to do with not seeking revenge, not having enemies, not being angry. You name it, it's in here. And I truly think if people read Vinland Saga, they'll come out of the other end a better person with maybe a different lens on. But anyway, I digress. I'm talking now about thought-provoking and lessons to be learned from books. I don't know, but it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't get off topic here. But such great stuff, such an incredible book, the best format to have this collected in. I don't care what anybody says. It is so deserving for this oversized format, and the art pops off these pages. Highly recommend it. If you haven't picked it up in those hardcovers yet, I don't think you need a double dip or anything, but if you haven't picked it up, go this route, because it is a incredible format. And first up, for indie and smaller publishers, we have Philadelphia. This is going to be volume 2. This is a social commentary but vampire story that takes place in Philadelphia, hence why it's called Philadelphia. It is very brutal. I have not read the entirety of the first volume, but I have read a handful of issues. I am a huge fan of it. I did enjoy what I've read. I have heard some rumblings that it dips in quality going into the issues that are collected in here, but I'm a completionist, so even if I'm not a huge fan of a second half of a title, I have to pick it up, because seeing just a volume 1 on my shelves drives me nuts. Maybe I'm sick in the head, but I picked it up. I plan on reading it. I plan of course, letting you guys know and sharing my thoughts, but I think the cover alone is absolutely beautiful as I wipe dust off the front of it. And I just really want to check out this story and completely finish my reading experience and hopefully get a review out for you guys. I know I've been slacking on reviews, but trying to change up the content here and there, keep things fresh with what time I do have. But really good stuff from what I've read. Excited to continue it and happy to have it in the collection. Next up is Firepower Book 2. This is a Robert Kirkman title. This is a rare Robert Kirkman title. I've grown to realize that I am not a huge fan of Robert Kirkman as a writer. The stuff that I like of his, I really like. The stuff I don't like of his, I borderline hate. So, but this is one I like. Firepower is worth the read. It is a love letter to kung fu movies. It's a love letter to like old school video games like Street Fighter or Tekken. And it is so much fun. It is such a blast. Chris Samney on art, killing it throughout this entire series. This second volume does conclude the series, so it is only a 2-volume set. Volume 1 and Volume 2 is all of Firepower, so you don't have a bunch of books to hunt down or anything like that. I think it reads beautifully for new readers. I think it will lend beautifully to manga readers or fans of anime, because it does have a lot of those tropes and elements, the unsung hero with a hidden power and everything like that, that anime kind of plays into, manga plays into. So highly recommend it for the readers of manga or fans of anime because of those reasons. But if you are a fan of comic books and you're already in comic books, then read this also. It is beautiful. The colors pop. The art is kinetic and fast-moving and bombastic. The storytelling is so tropey and so predictable that in a way it comes off enjoyable. I know that's probably very conflicting, but really good stuff. I highly recommend you guys reading this. I'm happy to finally finish it. I've read all of that first deluxe edition, and I will now be able to finally finish it and see how the conclusion of Firepower takes place, and again, share my thoughts with you all. But if you guys have read this, comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear from you all, so leave those comments and let me know what to expect. But we'll jump to the next book. Next up is Once and Future, the deluxe edition. This is mainly picked up because of Dan Mora's magnificent art, but this is written by Kieran Gillen. I have shared multiple times on the channel before and in some of my friend group chats that I don't know if I was a huge fan of the first volume. I don't know if I fully understood what was even happening other than monsters being hunted. I'm not a person that is well versed in King Arthurian lore or stories. I have not read any of that. I know who King Arthur is, but that's about where it ends. I know who Merlin is and Excalibur, but again, that's where it ends. There's a lot of story elements and characters that kind of pop up that, unless you're kind of well versed in that, it may go completely over your head, like it did with me. But the great part about this story is that Dan Mora is illustrating it, so it doesn't really matter. You just want to read and see Dan Mora draw and illustrate these people taking on these magnificent and fantastical and majestic monsters and creatures and warlocks and witches, and it is so awesome, so beautifully illustrated. I honestly think someone could write a story about someone walking their dog around the block, and as long as Dan Mora is illustrating it, it's going to be magnificent, and I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to read it happily. That's how much I love Dan Mora's art. So while I don't quite understand the story, I'm hoping this volume 2 will maybe help me with that. But even if it doesn't, Dan Mora on art, sign me up every single time. I'm going to read it. If I want a story that makes sense and that I understand, that Dan Mora also writes, I'll read World's Finest. But if I just want to read or see Dan Mora illustrate fantastical creatures, then this is where I'm going to go. So excited to finish it, excited to collect it, but most of all, excited to have even more Dan Mora in the collection. Next up, we have Power Rangers Book 3. I am officially current with releases. What an adventure hunting down these books. This is one of the most satisfying aspects about this hobby sometimes, is finding these books for great deals, finding these books when they get reprinted or ghost reprinted, and just getting books in that you thought you would never be able to get. And now here they are in my hands. I'm going to be able to finally finish this storyline, this run, this title, and it feels unreal because for so long, I want to say those deluxe editions, especially the early ones, Year 1 and Year 2 and Shattered Grid, they were impossible to find. I could not find them anywhere. Not just me, no one could find them anywhere. And then suddenly we see them get reprinted and start popping up on Amazon and other shops. And suddenly I had them in my hand. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is exactly why you wait before you buy. Could not believe that. Crazy experience, awesome experience. And now I'm current with the Power Rangers deluxe editions that have been released. So on to the next adventure. You guys know how it goes. Once you check the milestone that you're on currently, you just move on to the next one and start hunting the next book. So here I go. I don't know which route that's going to be or what title that's going to be, but I will let you guys know as soon as I dive in. But so excited. Huge Power Rangers fan. Watched Power Rangers fan probably up until 8th grade, as embarrassing as that is to admit online. But I really, really enjoy these comics as well. At least what I've read, which I've said before, was up to Shattered Grid. I've said that probably every haul for the past 3 or 4 months because I've featured these books in each of those hauls. But really good stuff. Excited to continue. Excited to be caught up in the deluxe editions world of Power Rangers and finally have all of these books in my collection. And last up for the Image, small publishers, indies side of the haul is Gone by Jock, the famous Jock, the illustrator that did the internals of titles like The Losers or Batman Black Mirror. This is his title, written and drawn and published by Distillery. For those of you that don't know, Distillery puts out these massive, oversized trims of books. They are magazine trim, very similar to that of the DC Black Label books that are being put out. But it is a multitude of creators that get to partner up with Distillery and pretty much tell whatever story it is that they want to tell with no editor interruption or anything like that. Distillery and Ghost Machine are two publishers that you will want to keep an eye on. They are creator-owned titles, creator-owned stories, and they are absolutely magnificent. Everything Ghost Machine has put out that I have read is chef's kiss, magnificent. And Distillery, I like a lot of aspects of their stories, but the part that I probably like the most is this trim, the size of these books, what you're getting for your money, how polished the actual format is. That's the main thing that I love the most. Awesome names on these titles as well. So if you've been in the comic book world, you're going to see a lot of familiar names. I've heard always mixed reviews on every single title, but I read them myself to formulate my own opinion. And then I'll share that opinion with you guys, like I've probably said 30 times in this video alone. But really excited to keep getting these Distillery books in. I've heard from a lot of people that Distillery doesn't miss, so I'm excited to dive in and find out if that's true for me as a reader. But that does wrap up my indie publisher or smaller publisher side of the haul. So let's go ahead and jump into the big two. And first up for DC is DC versus Vampires All Out War Volume 2. This does finish my DC versus Vampires set in my collection. There's 2 volumes of All Out War and 2 volumes of DC versus Vampires, and I think that finishes the title. Let me know down below in the comments if I am wrong. I can possibly be wrong. But Really good stuff here. This is exactly what you would expect. DC characters versus vampires, or I guess DC characters versus other DC characters that have been turned into vampires. You guys understand what I'm saying here. But this has a lot to like and a lot to unravel. There's murder mystery elements, there's just mystery in general elements, there's horror, everything that you would kind of come to expect from a vampire story. A lot of readers that I know that enjoyed Deceased found themselves enjoying DC versus vampires, but there's just that added sprinkle of mystery because obviously in Deceased you know who's infected, while with vampires you don't know who's infected. So it's a fun little game of cat and mouse that gets played throughout here between certain characters and other characters that I won't be revealing here, but still excited to finally complete this title, this set, I think. Let me know down below, please. And yeah, I've waited on way too long, so it was time to pick it up. Next up is Birds of Prey Volume 1, Megadeth. This is the Kelly Thompson run on Birds of Prey. Really good stuff here. The standout factor of this specific run is the art. The art is magnificent. I want to read the artist's name just to make sure I don't butcher it as much as I would if I went off of the dome. So Leonardo Romero and Arist Dane. Hopefully I did not completely butcher that. I'm sure I did. But the art in this specific title is so amazing. It's so fluid. It's so kinetic. Again, I know I like to use that word, but that's what it is here. You feel every blow, you feel every punch, every jump, backflip, flip, whatever it may be. This story is action-packed. This is going to be my fans of, or before my fans of characters like Harley Quinn, Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, Big Barda, who's one of my favorite female leads in the DC universe. Such good stuff, but the selling aspect of this specific hardcover edition is that it is a Target exclusive. DC has been doing this Target exclusive thing with Target where they put out volumes and titles in hardcover format only at Target. This is one of them. I will show off another title here shortly, but still, this is a standout title. So much fun. It was very reminiscent of Peacemaker. The Peacemaker tries hard as far as the art style and just the tone, the overall tone of the story. So if you did like that, a story that doesn't take itself too seriously, but still exists in the DC universe, this is going to be yet another title that will tick those boxes. So I do recommend checking it out, especially if you're fans of the characters that fall into the Bird of Prey teams, such as Harley Quinn, Cassandra Cain, Big Barda, etc., etc. So check this out if you haven't already. The hardcover is a Target exclusive, but I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, the trade paperback is out as well, so you can hunt it down in any format that you would like to do. Next up for DC is another Target exclusive, which is Batman and Robin Volume 1, Father and Son. This is the Joshua Williamson run. I've heard pretty good things from those that have read the issues that are specifically collected in this volume. I haven't read this because, if I'm being honest, I'm a little Batmaned out. Sorry, maybe a hot take there, but it's a Target exclusive, so I picked it up. And I also picked it up because of the artist, which is Simone DeMeo, which is the artist from We Only Find Them When They're Dead, which was another title that I really, really enjoyed. And I found myself really enjoying the art during that specific title. The only issue that I found myself sometimes finding was it was very jumpy when it came to the story and some of the paneling. So I would love to check out yet another title that they're on and be able to formulate a new opinion, or at least see if it's a continuing thing that kind of takes place with the art here. But very exciting, very pumped. The dust jacket is beautiful. I don't know if that's an exclusive. I do think the foil Batman and Robin down here, hopefully that's coming up on camera, is for the Target exclusive. Very similar to that of the print in the Birds of Prey Volume 1 that you get. But there's no right or wrong way of reading. If this is something you want to pick up, there is a trade paperback out there, very similar to that of Birds of Prey, so just pick it up that route. It doesn't matter. I'm just a lunatic bird brain reader. But anyway, Batman and Robin, Volume 1, Father and Son. Excited to get it in. Next up is another standard size hardcover. We have a lot of these this month, just an FYI, and that is Batman. This is the Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez run. This is Volume 3, and this is Joker Year 1. Rehashing the Joker origins. It's not anything we haven't seen before. It's not reinventing the wheel by any means when it comes to the character of Joker, but this is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite run on Batman that I've ever read. So I'm all in. I'm jumping into it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to continue collecting these hardcovers because I just love this run that much. Chip Zdarsky kills it whenever he's writing dark and brooding characters. He was amazing with Daredevil. He's doing amazing with Batman, even though he's such a, funny and zany guy, but he kills it on these dark characters. And then you have Jorge Jimenez on art. Come on, just sign me up every single time there. I have no issues with supporting a Batman title if it has those amazing creators on it, but really good stuff. Volume 3, Joker Year 1. If you want to hear Joker's origin finally shown off, is it really? I don't know. You'll have to read and find out, but very exciting. Very pumped to continue this line, and I'm sure once all these hardcovers are finished, we'll get an omnibus. That way we all wasted our money. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the next DC standard size hardcover, which is Batman Superman, World's Finest. This is Volume 4. Had to double check. This is the return of the Kingdom Come universe. And man, is this storyline incredible. It is so good. This is Mark Waid and Dan Mora, probably my favorite creative team in comics currently. Everything they have touched, they have completely destroyed, completely made perfect in every way, at least for me as a reader. They were the creative team that just got done wrapping up Absolute Power, which was the DC summer blockbuster event, the 4-issue miniseries event. And this is kind of where they got put on the map. Was this and Shazam were their two titles that they were doing and everybody loved. And I cannot talk highly enough about World's Finest. It is so good. It is great for new readers. I don't think you need to have any crazy amount of continuity knowledge to jump into this. This is probably the first time where this title hints at maybe something that took place in the DC universe that maybe you should read, which is Kingdom Come. But honestly, this is great. It is so good. The art is stellar. Mark Waid is probably in my top 3 favorite writers. This better get an omnibus, and if it does, I will be double dipping. This is worthy of an omnibus. It needs a larger format for Dan Mora's art. Anything Mark Waid writes, I'm usually a massive fan of. He just understands characters. He understands voices of characters. And this is some of my favorite Batman and Superman dialogue and moments that take place in the DC universe. The entire history of the DC universe is in this specific run. So check it out if you haven't already. That is World's Finest. Let's jump to the next book. And surprise, surprise, we have more DC standard size hardcovers, which is Nightwing by Tom Taylor, Volume 4, and Volume 5. This is finally catching me up to the current releases of these standard size hardcovers, and before anyone says it, yes, I'm going to be getting the omnibus. Am I crazy? Yeah, probably. Will I probably give away my entire set of hardcovers as a giveaway, because this run is a must to be experienced by any fan of comic books? You are correct. But nonetheless, such a great read, so incredible. Tom Taylor understands Nightwing, understands how to write a hopeful character, takes Nightwing out of Batman's shadow, makes him his own man, his own character, makes him hopeful instead of a Batman brooding copy. It is so good. And then when it comes to the art, Bruno Redondo taking so many chances here. There's an issue that is a never-ending panel in this specific volume, which the cover kind of gives away. There's a point of view issue where you're actually reading the comic from Dick Grayson's eyes, which is crazy to even say. It's a first-person Nightwing comic. I don't get how he does what he does. I don't get how Tom Taylor writes as many books as he writes and makes us care about so many characters, but he just does. Tom Taylor is, you know, a big name at DC. Got to be checking him out if you aren't. Great at, really, really good at Elseworld stories, but his run on Nightwing has been absolutely killer. But these two books do wrap up everything that I picked up for DC, so that means we get to go ahead and jump into what I picked up from Marvel. I just totally accidentally lied to you guys. I'm sorry. I just looked over and saw this book. This is the last book that I picked up for DC, and this is a whammy of a book. This is Superman, the Triangle Era, Volume 1. This is peak Superman. This is Superman at the top of his game at DC. This is Superman where he had multiple titles. Superman, Man of Steel, Adventures of Superman, all telling one story, hence the Triangle Era, for those of you that don't know what that means. But still, wow. I cannot believe this is out. The Man of Steel by John Byrne omnibus has never felt more real or more possible. We are really going everywhere around it, but we're not getting the Man of Steel. But I can taste it. I know it's coming. It needs to come. It needs to be added into the library, and Superman just needs more love in omnibus format, period. But such a good read. If you want to start Superman, understand the importance of the character, this is going to be a great way or a great time or a great omnibus to pick up. This is such incredible Superman comics here. This is also has to be omnibus cover contender of the year. I mean, look at, is there anything more Superman than that cover? Chills. Anyway, so excited to get another Superman omnibus, another Superman book. Superman is my favorite DC character, and it feels unreal to finally have this in my hand. But that wraps up all the books that I picked up from DC. So now we can jump into my Marvel books. First up for Marvel, we have Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, the Omnibus Volume 1. Finally, Ghost Rider getting some love in the omnibus format. We have, what, three omnibuses now, if we count Cosmic Ghost Rider. That is crazy. How Moon Knight has more omnibuses than Ghost Rider, and dare I say Ghost Rider has a bigger fan base. Crazy to me. But anyway, this is 90s Ghost Rider. This is the Ghost Rider that I'm a fan of, which is Danny Ketch. This is a reiteration or a rehashing of the Ghost Rider character, leaving Johnny Blaze behind and picking up with a new character. Johnny Blaze does make another appearance, or a lot of appearances, does play a role during this particular era of Ghost Rider, but this is primarily going to be your 90s goodness. This is going to be edgy, action-packed. I mean, you get some incredible action scenes throughout here, and you also just get some typical Ghost Rider style stories where you'd see Ghost Rider diving into the mystical and magical side of Marvel and taking on some well-known characters, but also lesser-known characters. And you get to see a brand new origin of a brand new character, at least for the time, which is Danny Ketch, and how he becomes the new Ghost Rider and what that means for Johnny Blaze. So really good stuff, so much fun. If you're a Ghost Rider fan, this is one you should read. I definitely think this is one of the strongest points of Ghost Rider, in my honest opinion, or my humble opinion. I'm not the biggest Ghost Rider fan, but I've always loved Danny Ketch. I've always enjoyed the 90s flair applied to Ghost Rider because I think they lend so beautifully together, and that's exactly what you're going to have here. A lot of people grew up reading this, and this is the reason that a lot of people like Ghost Rider. So very awesome, very cool. Ghost Rider is due for more love. This is a volume 1, so hopefully Danny gets more volumes to come, but still, Ghost Rider Omnibus is always a win in my book. And next up for Marvel is X-Men, the Mutant Massacre Prelude Omnibus, or what I like to call it, my home defense weapon, because look how thick this thing is. If you come into my house, I will throw this at your head. I mean, this thing is so big. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I digress. This has to be the biggest Marvel Omnibus, right? Comment down below if I'm wrong. But there was a lot of drama around this Mutant Massacre Prelude Omnibus and the X Factor, the original X-Men Omnibus, because they double dipped so heavily. I decided to go this route. I've said before, I don't plan on picking 1,500 X-Men omnibuses up. I'm not a big enough X-Men fan. I am an X-Men fan, just not that big of one. And I mainly just want to pick up the X-Men event omnibuses, and this does fall into that category. So that's why I went this route. I've said before, I am a huge X Factor fan, so it hurt me to not get that X Factor omnibus and that X Factor spine to go next to the Peter David X Factor omnibuses, but it just didn't financially make sense, so I went this route. And I'm very happy with my purchase. I don't have any regrets so far. I'll return to that, but beautiful book. I was not a huge fan of the covers that they gave us. This giant size homage is better than the Doctor Doom one, but it is what it is. I'll take the best of both worlds and put a custom dust jacket on if I have to. But anyway, super exciting. Pumped to get this in. Has some incredible stories in here, a lot of X Factor focus, and this does eventually end up leading into the 90s era of X-Men. So at least the prelude leads up to the event, which then eventually leads up into the 90s era of X-Men. So we're still ways off, but still, this is the bridge to get to that point, is what I'm trying to say. So really pumped. Huge book. Totally worth the price of admission when it comes to the issues that are collected in here, and very exciting to actually have it out and bridge that gap going into Mutant Massacre. Next up for Marvel, we have Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez, Volume 2. This does finish the set. I already had Volume 1, so this finishes it, which is always a exciting time for a collector in the collected editions world. This is probably my first or second favorite run when it comes to Avengers. The only one that's somewhat rivaled by it is Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers era. I do like this more than the Hick Avengers. Maybe a hot take there, but this is just late 90s, mid to late 90s. I want to say late 90s Avengers, where it is just so much fun. You have a lot of very important stories during this run, from Age of Ultron to Kang Dynasty, Maximum Security. You have Triathlon, just to name a few things that take place here, but really, really good stuff. Incredible art in here from George Perez. Obviously, he's no longer with us, but where he shined as a illustrator, as an artist, where it was on Team Books. You'll have noticed when reading this, if you pay really good attention to the paneling and the setting during the storytelling panels that take place, George Perez gives every single character their own mannerisms, their own facial expressions, and he really does encapsulate the characters and made them the way that so many of us now picture them in our heads. And I cannot commend him enough. I truly thank him for his service in the community of comics and the world of comics, but really, really good stuff. I highly recommend this. It is a little wordy, so be wary of that. Kurt Busiek really fleshes out the Avengers lore, the Marvel lore, brings in every character you can possibly think of at some point. Has the Avengers go up against probably every villain you can think of at some point. So there's a lot of storytelling here. It is very dense, but it is such an incredible run, so important, so much fun. And this is Cap during my favorite Cap era, which is the late 90s, where we have Energy Shield Cap, we have OG Triangle Metal Shield Cap. Cap takes a front stage in a lot of scenes here. Honestly, the trinity of Thor, Iron Man, and Cap take front stage in most of these stories, but really great stuff. Highly recommend it. Check it out if you haven't already. Give it a try. See if it's your pace. If not, that's fine, but I do recommend at least giving it a try. And the last book of the haul is Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 4. Technically, if you count in the Death of Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus, the final Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus. We have all of Ultimate Spider-Man, which I feel like I've said multiple times at this point, too many times, collected in omnibus format. Now, with that being said, there is a Volume 5 that is planned to come out. Where that's going to double dip with Death of Ultimate Spider-Man, I have no clue. I don't think anybody knows. I'm sure once Omar at Nearman Condition gets where it double dips and how it double dips, he's going to share that with us. But until then, it's technically finished, because after this omnibus comes Death of Ultimate Spider-Man, and then we go into the Miles era of the Ultimate Spider-Man world. So crazy, crazy, crazy to think that Ultimate Spider-Man 1, the omnibus, was a whale for so long. When I got into the omnibus world, the collected editions world, it felt like I would never get my hands on it. I want to say Ultimate Spider-Man was the first Marvel omnibus before Marvel omnibuses were even a thing. It was like a Barnes and Noble exclusive or something like that, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. But crazy to think that it's finished. I mean, it is... I feel like I'm having a fever dream, even holding this in my hands. I did go with like the Venom symbiote variant. If I ever show my collection off, which I know the video's coming, I'm trying. You'll notice that I pretty much got all of the symbiote DM variant covers for Ultimate Spider-Man, minus volume, what was it, volume 3? Yeah, minus volume 3, which I hated all of those covers. But I pretty much picked up all of the symbiote covers, so they look beautiful together. The spines all next to each other. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's incredible. It's unreal, and we are at the finish line with Ultimate Spider-Man. So fingers crossed on more Ultimate Universe stuff. I know Ultimate Fantastic Four, I think, was announced. I'm not 100% on that, but I think that was announced. And then I want to say we have one more volume of Ultimate X-Men to finish that out. Don't 100% know that either. But that quality is going to dive very shortly here in the next omnibus. Just prepare yourselves. At least Ultimate X-Men, I mean. But really good stuff. One of the best Spider-Man runs ever. Probably most people's favorite. And probably a lot of people would probably argue saying it is the best Spider-Man run ever. So check it out if you haven't. This is the Spider-Man run to check out if you want to get into Spider-Man. There's a lot of volumes, but they do come in and out of print often. So if you're vigilant, you may be able to catch yourself a deal, maybe using a code, because there's 4 volumes. The code that I mentioned in the beginning, you know what I'm talking about. But last book from Marvel, which wraps up the haul. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you for hanging in there. I know my content is very sporadic right now. It is hurricane season here in Florida. We just got hit by a Cat 4, or hit by the outer ring of a hurricane that was a Cat 4. It mainly hit North Carolina, which my prayers go to everyone affected up there. Horrible to see what took place there. But we do have another hurricane hitting here shortly, so fingers crossed I don't lose power and nothing else happens. As long as I don't, I'm going to keep posting content anytime I can, so look out for that. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys being members of the community. And if you are watching this and you are not a member of the community, hit that subscribe button to join. It's my favorite place on the internet. I love each and every member here, everyone that talks in the comments and sends out recommendations and corrections. I love this place. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And if you could do me a little favor, anybody that is watching this, and hit that thumbs up icon, it really means a lot to the algorithm. And if you want to be notified, you can ring that bell and get notifications anytime I upload content. But once again, thank you for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. And of course, stay nerdy.